Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of the syndicated talk show, People of Distinction. The talk that gives you an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, alcoleenterprises.com for more info. Email me at benji@alcoleenterprises.com if you'd like to get involved with what we have going. And as always, please continue to like and follow our broadcast because People of Distinction is a nationally and internationally syndicated show because of listeners like you. Our shows are available across all major podcast distributors as well as YouTube. And if you keep following, we're going to continue to put out the content. We appreciate the support. Continue to like and follow and sit back and strap in because on the line with us today, we have the impressive Justin Louis Jean and Pierce Mortensen. Both of them have written an amazing book that you're going to want to get your hands on. It's called Academic Revolution, Changing the Outdated Narrative of Education. Available for purchase through Amazon as well as BarnesandNoble.com, all the regular online book resellers. But people, if you want to gather everything that they have in store, you got to check out some additional resources. First and foremost is the personal website. That one's called JustEncyclopedia.com. Now, there is some wordplay here, so I'm going to spell it out for you just to make sure that there is no mistakes. And that's going to be Just Encyclopedia, JustEncyclopedia.com. There you're going to find more information on them, more information on this book. You'll find hyperlinks set up to take you to the purchasing pages as well. Also, check out their podcast called Just in Words. Again, that's JustInWords. Now, when you search for the podcast, understand there is a space between just in words. So JUST space INWORDS. Check it out to gather more information on what they have going on. And before we go any further, I want to take this opportunity and point out the fact that they were both brought to our network, People of Distinction, today by one of the best firms in the business and people you already know. I'm talking about CITI of Books. So for my writers out there who have gone through their process and now you need help moving that book you just developed. Contact CITI of Books, people. They're one of the best in the business to do it. You're going to want to head on over to cityofbooks.com to gather all the ways that their fantastic team is going to help move your creative endeavors. And listen, as I mentioned, it is an absolute pleasure to have each of them here on the line. Their book challenges the status quo and offers innovative solutions to revitalize our educational system. For anybody that is listening in right now, whether you are in that educational world or not, you understand what I'm talking about. I had a very brief stint in education myself where I taught for 4 years, but I have a lot of educators in my circle, either through family or close friends. And one thing that is certain, the education system needs to change. Right? Things are a little outdated. So often we're not bringing the education to our children. We're trying to force them to meet us where the education is. And unfortunately, the world is changing. Kids are learning differently. Let's not even embark upon the whole question of electronics and what that's doing to our educational system and how we now have to update the entire curriculum to fit within that. There are a lot of changes that need to be made. This book is the precipice to it all. But it's just going to be the start of the conversation, all right? At the end of the day, you're going to want to take this, incorporate it, have those conversations with those around you, and see how we can better the entire system for the future of our world, but also for the future of our children. And at the end of the day, Justin and Pierce, they're the experts. So let's bring them here with us. First and foremost, Justin, Pierce, welcome to People of Distinction. Thank you very much for being guests. How are each of you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. I was actually excited to be here, so thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us, Benji. This is very exciting.
Of course.
We're excited to talk about the book. Really excited.
Listen, gentlemen, the pleasure is all ours, man. I really do mean it. What you each have done here, I think is something that a lot of people are already aware of, but not many people have taken enough initiative to address the issues, right? I mean, it's something that I remember when I was in school all those years ago, it seems. And I just remember sitting in the classroom and understanding, like, this is not working for me, right? I'm not gaining the knowledge in the way that certain classmates of mine were. And I often then looked inside myself like there's something wrong with me. And that is not the case. Everybody is different. Everybody has different type of methods in which they utilize. So I love the fact that you guys have embarked upon this journey to tackle such a huge issue. But you've done it in a way where, based upon the 7 topic points that you've broken down within the book, you get very specific with it. And you truly have laid out a great plan on how to revitalize it. So listen, we're looking forward to this. I can talk your book up all day, but let's jump first and foremost and learn a little bit more about each of your backgrounds. Justin, let's start with you since your name is first there. Go ahead, tell us a little bit more about yourself, and then Pierce, you can follow right after.
All right. So my name is Justin Louis-Jean. I was born in Canada, in Ottawa specifically. My roots lie in Haitian and Trinidad, and I then proceeded to have a degree in social work. Then I proceeded to write the book.
Well, yeah, I was I was raised in Ottawa too. We're both from the capital. We both went to school together. Actually, that's how we met.
Yeah,
we met in gym class one day in 9th grade. So we've known each other for quite some time. I went on after high school to study biochemistry at the University of Ottawa. It was during that time period during my degree that we co-wrote the book together.
Well, gentlemen, let's jump in, okay? I'm going to start with your title because there is something about it that stops you right in your tracks and instantly hooks you in. Academic revolution. Those are some big words there, right? And it's a big challenge. Talk to us about that title, why you chose it to be the representation for your book.
Well, the academic revolution is honestly the first thesis of this book. And it really describes something because the question of what is a revolution is really going to be brought here. A revolution is when you basically take a system and you destroy it to build something new above it, and to build something that is greater than what was before, after something that has basically outweighed its term needs to move and change. Now we're moving and changing with the education system. And the way we're going to do that is by basically breaking down these old rules and these old methods that have honestly become dated. And we're going to basically modernize them and develop them in ways that now will suit for our developing world. Honestly, overall, that's the general thesis of the actual title. But what it basically will bring in are all of the ideas that basically our book has to offer. Why are we revolting, and how will we do it? And then what will be brought from the ashes?
Going on into the book itself, your book, as I mentioned in the opening, there are 7 major topic points that are discussed within it. Well, we don't want to go into all of them, right? Because people, you understand, you got to purchase the book, right? And we're not going to give it all away here. But since we're here on the line talking, I'm curious, in your view, and this is really addressed to both of you, but what are the most pressing flaws in the current educational system, and how does your book propose to address them?
Okay, so first and foremost, I want to say that I think one of the key ones would be problem 5, which is we all learn differently. It starts by attacking the 9 types of intelligences by Howard Gardner, and the 3 types of ways that we learn, either tactile, visual, or auditorial. And with that, we then categorize in different people and figure out how we learn and how the school system is not willing to change its ways and to say, okay, you just have to memorize things, you have to regurgitate on a test, and that's that. You know, people are way past that. People actually have to understand and be able to find ways to apply it in their lives. So that would be the main focus of that chapter.
Yeah, it's honestly an interesting chapter that really develops an idea that was kind of put on earlier. In one of our earlier chapters, when we were doing research on it, one of the things that we found, because our book although it does have certain focus on the North American form of school, we did take some time to also go global and look into cross-references of how different schools in different countries teach. And as I was doing it, I had remembered this class I'd taken on criminology long ago that had taught me about the different penal systems and in different countries. And so while I was studying about the Finnish system, the French system, the Canadian system, and then I moved on a bit to East Asia where I looked into the Japanese and Chinese systems of education, I was realizing a weirdly fascinating trend, which is that the education systems in these countries have very similar behaviors to their prison systems. The prison systems in these countries, and depending on how harshly they treat their prisoners, is very similar to how harshly they will treat their students and the way that they try to correct their mistakes. For example, just as a quick show, oftentimes in a North American system, which is very connected to the European system in many ways, especially like the Anglo-Saxon system, is basically when you do a mistake, you immediately punish someone, and you do it because then you're going to, through negative reinforcement, to correct that mistake and try to get someone to develop behavior. It's a very behaviorist point of view that uses the punishment as the main force of driving it. If you do bad on a test, well, here's your bad grades, and if you don't do well on the next one, well, you're just going to sink lower and lower. The problem with this is that there are faults when it comes to negative reinforcement as a way to try to get someone to do something, and that's that if someone just doesn't understand or care, punishing them isn't going to help. It's just going to drive them further away.
Right.
But one of the things that we found that was interesting is that when we looked at other systems, like the Finnish system, for example, they spend a lot of their time when it comes to prison systems trying to rehabilitate their prisoners. They have very nice and fanciful prison systems in many ways, and often even higher profile prisoners are treated quite well to try to find ways to rehabilitate them and bring them back into society. The same goes for their education system. It's very different. It's a lot more open-ended, and it allows students to do mistakes if they want to, as long as it drives their education. And when we realized this, we saw that the same thing had happened in Asia, where they often are extremely regimented in their way of learning. The details of this can go and expand beyond the scope of what I could communicate. But that being said, it is a fascinating cross-reference of human understanding when it comes to how we try to correct things and how we try to learn things, that our prison systems and our education system has a lot of parallels in how it tries to, drive us forward in a lot of ways.
I love that insight. And I think that there is so much there. Like you said, that's not for this discussion, because there's a lot more that we can go into in terms of just the philosophical question and how, the prison system kind of is very symptomatic, or I guess there are those correlations between the prison system and the education. I know at least there are here in the United States. I'm sure as you said, the research that you've done, there's a lot of correlation. It's a very great insight. People, I'm telling you, the conversation begins with Academic Revolution. Head on over to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, JustEncyclopedia.com. Check out the podcast, Just in Words. This is going to be something that is the beginning of, like the book says, the beginning of a revolution, right? The beginning of a rebirth and a new insight on how we can teach our children, because something needs to change. And going into one of those changes, gentlemen, as I mentioned at the beginning of the interview, technology is now, listen, it's reshaping the world. It's not going to be limited to our educational system, although since that's the discussion at hand, we can't deny that there are changes coming just with the technology and the advancement of that, which seems to be just moving at a lightning speed. Talk to us about how you believe technology should play in the future of education and how this is integrated into the ideas for this revitalization.
Well, I think it's safe to say that if they like to say that AI is going to be the next generation of the world, it's ironic that they don't want to implicate it in the schools. One thing I do talk about in the book is, per se, is how schools like to, base their tests off books, grade you off the books, and, do everything by the books. And one thing I really like to emphasize in the book we wrote is to, it's great to do things like that to start off, but after that, you have to, do things by yourself. You have to put your own 2 cents into it. And so, how the book does that is, well, since AI and the and all the technology is such a powerful force, we have to learn to use it to our own advantage, right? If they say the words at our fingertips, literally, we have to be able to explore it. If you want to talk about a subject, let students bring a subject that they're interested in and talk about it to class. That's a way to learn it.
I would also just like to add that the problem with AI being so scared, like in the education system, is although people bring up a lot of the problems of like, is it possible for there to be plagiarism and etc.? Yes. But the problem is that these problems won't get fixed if we run away from it. We need to figure out a way to adapt to these new technologies, which are here to stay. It's not going away, and you're not going to get kids to stop learning it because they're the ones who, well, know how to use technology best. So the education system for it to be best would be to, like Justin said, basically, you can start off with your foundations of education as we've always done it, because frankly, there is a good foundation there. But at some point, the future continues, and we need to move on and develop and adapt with what we have to offer now, which is completely different than any other generation that's come before us.
Last couple of questions here, and as we tie out of the book specifically, what long-term impact do you hope that your book will have on the educational landscape, and how do you envision measuring the success of the changes that you're advocating for?
That's a great question. And I'll start by saying one major thing that I think people have a hard time dealing with is answering the question, who are they and why are they on the planet, or why are they doing what they're doing? Right? That kind of goes into existential questions. One thing I envision to happen is that people are brought to explore themselves. People are brought to explore what they like, what they don't like, and follow a path within that. Of course, things could change and, you could go left when you want to go right and so on and so forth. But if you have an idea of where you want to go and you're able to adjust your path along the way, you're able to connect the dots and see the bigger picture, which is something I illustrate in our book.
When it comes to school, I think what really we'd like to see change is that everyone up until the age of nearly high school has absolutely no leeway when it comes to what they learn. Everyone is learning the same thing. And oftentimes what happens is I think what the school system so far is trying to do is go, okay, let's say you're good at this, but you're not good at this. That means you should go what you're good into. But that method doesn't really give you a lot of options to really understand what life is about. And especially after you've graduated high school, I think most people realize something, that the 8 topics we're being taught in school does far from actually teach us what we're going to be doing in real life. School has very few actual... it has its applications, but we could broaden so much more the potential of what an education could do if we personalized it to people and gave them a better ability to bring directions in their lives before the end of high school, and then they're just thrown into the ether to have to deal with whatever they do moving forward.
There's something I like to say. School is a part of life, not the other way around.
Yeah. Gentlemen, as we close out of this interview, I'm curious, talk to us a little bit more about the process of writing it.
Sure. So essentially, me, I always had a passion for writing and literature. So first I started off with poems here and there. Then I dabbled into short stories on different topics. Then as I was showing it to my parents, I was getting positive feedback from it, also peers as well, and multiple of my friends. And they're like, you should write a book. I'm like, I'll look into that. Or even publishing my work. They were like, oh, you should, you should publish your work. I'm like, okay, I'll look into that. And so I was doing research about different topics, and first and foremost, I would see school come up a couple times, and I'm like, okay, let me actually focus on, I guess, school, because we were still in school at the time. So then I would just open and write with music and just just free write, just let my ideas flow on paper, and that's kind of how that came up to be.
Yeah, my presence came in only later when after Justin had finished his first draft, I was given a chance to read over the book, and I began by doing a couple additions to it. Well, after a bit of time, these additions became more and more elaborate, and I started adding in more things. And slowly the book took a different form, and we began talking about it. And over the course of 4 or 5 months, the book had kind of transformed into what it is now. But basically, I'd become a co-author by the end of the book, just because we had, at the end of the day, contributed a completely different amount of work by the time of the second draft was fully completed. So that's how I kind of got into this project, and it became exactly that.
People, I'm telling you, there is so much meat left on that bone. This conversation is a long one, but we've said enough to begin it. All right, I'm going to say it for you once again. It's called Academic Revolution, Changing the Outdated Narrative of Education. It's available for purchase through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, but make sure to check out the website justencyclopedia.com, as well as the podcast Just in Words. There's so much valuable pieces of information here that Justin and Pierce have incorporated. But like I mentioned, this is solely the precipice. This is the journey that you're going to be embarking upon towards truly revitalizing our educational system for the better, for tomorrow's children. But here's the thing. Tomorrow's children, they're going to need to get this conversation revisited again, because it's just a constant change. The world has been morphing and developing in such a rapid pace. Our education system needs to catch up and stick along with it. So like I mentioned before, it's the precipice. This is the beginning, but it's one that is absolutely needed. And we have Justin and Pierce to thank for all of that. Head on over there today, pick up your copies, figure out why I say that. Justin, Pierce, this has been an absolute pleasure, man, a true honor. Thank you both for being guests, people of distinction.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.